These will come up, and as you come up, we have a presenter. They have a presenter that's going to, which is one of our past inductees. They will give them their plaque. And then first up we have Kirk and Scott. But anyway, Ray Cunningham is going to introduce them, and then our MC is Kirk Elliott. He will take over after that. So when you come up here to get your presentation, I would like for you to keep it between 10 and 15 minutes on your talk, okay? If you got notes, please go through them now and scratch this out and that, or add whatever you want to do. So, okay, so I think I've said everything. I would like to welcome everybody, and I hope you enjoy yourself. Okay? Ray, where did you go? I'm going to introduce to you now Ray Cunningham, and he's going to do our first presentation to our first inductees. Except he's going the wrong direction. So, okay, let me tell you a little bit how we got here, how the inductees were chosen. Okay, so we have on your table, we have a little pamphlet there. That is the nomination form. Anyone that has raced in the central part of Missouri and Kansas is eligible for this nomination. There's the instructions are on the back as to how you qualify for that, whatever. A person nominates you. You cannot nominate yourself, I'm sorry. But step up a little bit, get closer to the mic. He said to step up a little bit, get closer to the mic. Is this close enough? Yeah, that's better. Okay. So, but anyway, you send that in, and it has to be in before September the 1st of every year. Okay, after you send this in, then you need to, the person that nominates whoever needs to get information for us. In other words, newspaper articles, pictures, whatever, and give that to us too. And then we also help find it if you can't find it, but we're hoping you'll find it. But anyway, and then we come in, and then you are put on a nomination form. The nomination form is sent out to voters, and our voters is the past inductees, living inductees, and then the board and the officers of the Central Auto Racing Boosters Hall of Fame. And then we also have some outsiders, but they know about the racing in Kansas and Missouri and has been around for a lot of years. These are our voters. Then in December, we get together and we count the votes. Whenever they send their votes in, it comes back to our secretary. They are not opened at all. The ballots are opened up in the first week in December. We open them up and we go through it. There's a little bit of instructions on there. You can't vote for yourself, or, you can't, if they're kin to you, all that stuff's in there. But we go through there and we take the top 8 that have the most votes, and that's who gets inducted. Then you're called on by me or one of my board members to congratulate you and tell you all about our banquet. But that's how you got here tonight, is because someone sent in a nomination form that's on your table, and luckily you are here. So we want to congratulate you that you're here. We thank the person that nominated you, and grab that nomination form and nominate anyone that is raced in Kansas or Missouri, okay? There's something else I was going to say. Anyway, do that for me. And then I want to introduce my board to you, okay? So as I call your name, I would like for my board to come forward, please. So, okay, I'm the president, Karen Darling. My vice president is J.D. Cormack. I don't know where he is. He's where? Okay.
At the front door.
Okay. I got you. I don't have a microphone. You guys don't have one like me. Okay, then my secretary is Brenda Johnson. She's probably at the front door too. Okay, T.O. said, yeah, okay. Then I have my treasurer, which is Brian Jackson. He's here. Okay, and then my board members are Ray Cunningham, I have John Lane, Marla Christie. I don't know where these people are here. I don't know where they are. Marla Christie, which she is our caterer. She's part of our catering business. She has excellent food. You will enjoy it tonight. But anyway, Marla's on our board. I have Rick Darley, which is my husband. Then I have, I'm trying to think here, Darren Woodward, T.O., Teresa Osmond, get up here. They don't know, they see an arm, but that's about it. Who am I missing, guys? Who? Rick's coming. Rick Howard. Where's Rick? These lights are bright, so when you all get up here, be prepared. Okay, we have people everywhere, so anyway, that is my board. So I want to thank them for all they've done, and I appreciate their help. So, okay. Here comes Rick Howard, slow but sure. Get up here, Rick. Come on, come on, come on. Come on, come on, come on. Come on, come on, come on. So, don't mind us, we're all getting old. Okay, this is my board. So, all righty, thank you guys. Okay, so now I'm going to turn it over to Ray, and we're going to get started on our presenters. Okay, thank you.
The Racing Boys, Scott Traylor and Kirk Elliott. For the last 25 years, the Racing Boys, Scott Traylor and Kirk Elliott, along with producer Todd Surprise for the last 12, have manned the airwaves on 810 Radio, live streamed events including the Chili Bowl and ASCS Sprints, and made content and broadcast videos available on their RBN website. It all started in the year 2000 when Traylor asked Elliott to join him as co-host on his Saturday morning radio show, Track Talk, broadcasted every Saturday on 810 Radio. Later, during a broadcast of their Friday afternoon racing highlighted segment on the sports radio juggernaut hosted by Kevin Keatsman, the Casey area sportscaster called the duo the Racing Boys, and the name stuck. Over those early years, the duo would broadcast live at Kansas Speedway's major events starting in 2001 until the present time, while also broadcasting local racing events on WHB's 50,000 watt station from Lakeside, I-70, State Fair Speedway in Sedalia, and Harlan Park in Topeka. The Racing Boys grew their business beyond the radio broadcast by starting up a website in 2002 and produced numerous live racing-related niche programs during the infancy of live internet streaming. In 2006, the Racing Boys were asked by Chili Bowl co-founder Emmett Hahn to produce live audio broadcasts of the Chili Bowl, later to include the Tulsa Shootout, while adding live stream videos from both events from 2013 through 2021. During his stint with the RBN network, Traylor would travel the country producing the live internet broadcasts of ASCS National Tour events for 12 years, while through 2025, Scott and Kirk would continue to host 2 weekly racing shows, a tribute to their longevity and to their working relationship with 810 Radio and WHB headman Chad Boger for his continued commitment and loyalty to the coverage of auto racing with the Racing Boys for 25 straight years. The RBN network, Racing Boys, has also showcased the talents of Todd Surprise, who became involved with the Racing Boys over the last 12 years. Among his highlights with them have been creating all graphics, videos, and photos for their shows, while also working as a cameraman for events and races, interviewing of celebrities and drivers, as well as co-hosting live events. Among Todd's accolades, he would win the prestigious Tom Wilson Media Award given out at the annual CARB banquet. Outside of the Racing Boys, Kirk Elliott and Scott Traylor have distinguished themselves with several notable accomplishments and achievements in the sport. Kansas City racer and later broadcaster Scott Traylor was born in 1960 and started racing as street stock at age 17 in 1977 at the old Lakeside Stadium, Topeka Raceway, and Savannah Speedway on the dirt. Later on pavement, Scott would race sportsman late models, modifieds, ARCA, and super trucks at the new Lakeside and the old paved I-70. Traylor would win 30 feature events, including 10 in his ultra-fast super truck. From 2003 to 2006, Scott would race 6 ARCA events at Kansas Speedway, and then would also be involved in a team ownership role in ARCA with driver and future NASCAR star Clint Boyer, helping the Emporia, Kansas racer secure a ride with Richard Childress after Boyer finished second at Nashville Superspeedway and a solid result at Charlotte Motor Speedway in 2003, while also teaming up with Columbia, Missouri racer Carl Edwards to win the World Cup at I-70 Speedway before retiring in 2010 to concentrate on the RBN network. Over the years, Traylor would further enhance his broadcasting resume at Metro Sports, Talking Racing, and with Tim Grunhard on 41 and 38th a Spot with an only racing segment, and then with Jack Harry on 38th a Spot doing a weekly segment on racing. Racing broadcaster Kirk Elliott, born in 1956, grew up in Mount Ayr, Iowa, in a racing family that would include older brother Dick, who's also being inducted tonight, and later his son Dennis. Kirk always desired a career in broadcasting and got his first opportunity as an announcer at age 15 when the regular announcer didn't show up at his local track, Ringgold County Speedway. That assignment lasted through high school and into college when he got his next opportunity at the sprint car capital of the world, Knoxville, Iowa, in 1976. After that, Kirk spent 7 seasons announcing at Stewart Speedway in central Iowa and a couple seasons at Mason City, Iowa, while graduating from Iowa State University during his time behind the mic. Adams County and Corning would be his next gig, and he would stay there for 17 seasons as an announcer and track publicist. In 1986, Kirk would move to Kansas City, where he worked in the hospitality business for 16 years before pursuing a career in racing full-time. From 1990 to 2000, Elliott produced a weekly racing segment on KMBZ Radio, covering Kansas City area racing as well as NASCAR events around the country before joining forces with Scott Traylor 25 years ago in 2000, on their way to today being enshrined in the CARB Hall of Fame for 2025. So here's the Racing Boys, Scott Traylor and Kirk Elliott, to receive their induction plaques.
You did a good job.
Thank you, Ray. Appreciate it. Anybody here take pictures?
Okay, now, our MC for tonight is Mr. Kirk Elliott. Kirk?
How's everybody doing tonight? Appreciate it.
I forgot to give you your bottles of wine.
Oh, we got bottles for the inductee. How about that? That's cool. Scott gets one too.
Yes.
Right. So.
No, I get it.
Oh, you get. Okay. Appreciate it. That's a nice touch. On behalf of Scott, I want to thank everybody who elected us to the Hall of Fame. We really appreciate that. It's great honor indeed. We're going to get moving tonight. We've got 12 inductees that we've got to get through tonight. We're going to do half of them before dinner and half after. And so we're going to move into our Pioneer class. We have 4 inductees into the Pioneer division for the Hall of Fame. And our first one is William Wayne Brown. W.W. Cockeyed Brown. It's a rather average name, William Wayne Brown, but W.W. Cockeyed Brown, that's when the ordinary becomes extraordinary. A true racing legend, back in a time when nicknames were as common as tattoos today, Brown preferred being known by the less derisive name Brownie, and so those closest to him called him that, including the likes of friends Fred Duesenberg and Harry Miller. W.W. Brown, born in 1886, died in 1958, belonged to that forgotten generation of highly skilled craftsmen, engineers, builders, and machinists who perfected their trade. Their calloused hands, missing fingertips, and raw intuition deserve credit for their genius. These masters of their trade included Harry Miller, Eddie Rickenbacker, Ed and Bud Winfield, Chuck Hiroshima, Myron Stevens, Fred Offenhauser, Leo Goosen, and of course the Duesenberg brothers. Equally deserving but nearly forgotten is fellow Kansas Cityan W.W. Brown. Brownie's race career began on October 25, 1909, when he beat the local sheriff and one irate father on a 25-mile wild ride to the Delta, Colorado Justice of the Peace to elope with 16-year-old Iva. Kansas City, Missouri is where the couple would settle. Brown, a young machinist, found immediate success racing highly sophisticated cars of his own design and manufacture. His first formal race saw victory in the Buick 10 Bearcat at the inaugural dirt track race at Belleville, Kansas. That was on July 4th, 1910. In addition to winning at dozens of county fairgrounds from Nebraska to Texas, the beaches of Galveston, the dirt of Ascot, Brown found national fame at AAA sanctioned events on the boards of Beverly Hills, Chicago, Omaha, Des Moines, and Kansas City. The Twin Cities Concrete Oval, road races at Santa Monica, Elgin, and Blue Ridge, a hill climb, an economy run, and bricks of the Indy 500. Nearly 200 races documented thus far. And he was the first to drive a motor car to the summit of Pikes Peak on July 7, 1913. Finally, and to this tally, another 250 races by other greats driving cars and motors of Brown's creation. The inaugural race at the Kansas City Speedway, September 17, 1922, with Tony Galata as mechanic, was nearly Brownie's racing finale, as he would then devote full time to the W.W. Brown Machine Works, established in 1920. The old building still stands today at 127 Southwest Boulevard. On a sunny day, you can faintly see W.W. Brown Machine Works in the bricks. Now tonight, W.W. Cockeyed Brown is immortalized as a pioneer member of the CARB Hall of Fame. And here tonight to accept the honors is Dr. John Bakey. Ladies and gentlemen, our first pioneer inductee of the night, W.W. Cockeyed Brown. Congratulations on accepting this. This was a real hero of the day, Doc.
Thank you very much. Would you like me to talk a little bit
Go
about
ahead.
WW? I'm really honored to be here. In fact, I'm humbled to be here because
Hold this microphone close so we got it.
any one of you folks could be in my position right now. I don't claim to have any blood relation to W.W. Brown. The way this whole thing came about was I'm fortunate enough to own the remains of the 29 Indy winner, the Lockhart Miller that Ray Keech won in. And when I was at Chuck Davis's collection. He lived on an island off the coast of Wisconsin. There he had this dusty engine in a corner, and I inquired about it. And it was, even though it was dirty, it was a straight 8 overhead cam with a supercharger. And how can any motorhead not be excited about that combination? And when I went over and looked at it, I saw embossed on the water jackets, W.W. Brown Machine Works, Kansas City, Missouri. And I asked Chuck, well, who is this guy? And he was indignant. He said, you're from Kansas City and you don't know who W.W. Brown is. Well, no, I don't. Are you going to tell me? And no, he wasn't. And so I went home and started researching W.W. Brown, and he had this nickname, Cockeyed. And that's when I realized nobody has a nickname, Cockeyed, without there being a wealth of wonderful stories to back that up. You know, have you ever noticed how today nobody has nicknames? It's been replaced by tattoos. And so that launched my dive into who is Cockeyed Brown, and I realized that he's almost been entirely forgotten by the automotive world, and it's a reason due to circumstances. He had 3 wives in his lifetime, and the final wife, Gracie, was much his younger, and they had only been married a little over a year when he died. And so she had never really experienced any of his racing greatness, and therefore when he died in 1958, all of his mementos, the scrapbooks, the photographs pretty much were scattered to the wind. There are books written about Harry Miller and the Duesenberg brothers. Brown is nothing but a footnote. And that's why I committed myself then to preserving this man's memory. And I'm fortunate enough to have acquired that engine. You can see it in the program on page 7 in the bottom right corner. That's what the engine looks like today, having been restored. And then I went on this search. Where is the car? Is there any chance that it exists? Because as everybody can appreciate, a race car without an engine has no value. And so the odds of it still existing today with that engine having been removed from it was minimal. But I found it. And the photo that you see on the bottom of page 7 was taken in the 1930s. That's the very car that W.W. Brown took to the peak of Pikes Peak and the Pikes Peak hill climb sometime later. And so the project is to reunite the engine with the race car. And just a couple last things which are important to understand the greatness of this man. Though he raced many times, his real genius was as an engineer and a machinist. He built 2 race cars in around 1920 called the Junior Specials. These were double overhead cam 6-cylinder engines, but every one of the lobes on the camshafts were individually keyed. Imagine trying to tune that engine. Then at the advent of midget racing, he developed, wait for it, a desmodromic midget race car engine. I mean, how many people in here tonight can raise their hand and tell me they know what the word desmodromic means? But yet this is what he did, and it was a technology that would be 10 years later before Mercedes-Benz with their W196 would actually use the Desmo technology. And so Cockeyed Brown was an absolute genius, and fortunately, because of you folks, his memory is not going to be forgotten. And I thank you all tonight for this honor that I proudly accept in his behalf. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. And here to present the award tonight is CARB Hall of Fame inductee Ray Boyles, and we'll get his award. Stand over here, Doctor, and if you come up on stage here, Ray, come up on stage.
Thank you.
And turn around and face the crowd and stand there. Ladies and gentlemen, our first Pioneer inductee of the night, W.W. Cockeyed Brown. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. My pleasure. Thank you. Thank you.
You bet. Thank you, Ray.
Thank you for letting me be here.
You bet. Born in 18 1990 in Marable, Missouri, and later living 16 miles up the road in Lathrop, racing pioneer Frank Rollin Elliott would become one of America's earliest auto racing stars, running and winning on the board tracks across America while also competing in 6 Indy 500s from 1927, or that's 1922 to 1927. Frank's birthplace is part of the greater Kansas City area, and as of the last census, only had around 365 people. When Elliott was growing up in the 1800s in Missouri, even talking about an automobile was about the same as talking about space travel at that point in time. In fact, Henry Ford's first Model A wasn't sold until 1903 when Frank was only 13. 12 years later, though, at age 25, Elliott would start a driving career that would last well over a decade. The Show Me State driver won 5 times on the high-banked and treacherous board tracks across America while driving at his home track, Kansas City Speedway. He posted 6 seconds, 5 thirds, 7 fourths, and 12 fifth-place finishes in 72 starts racing in the AAA ranks. You might ask how dangerous it was driving on those board tracks during that era? Well, it's estimated that the death toll was in the hundreds, while also killing many spectators, also when cars and debris left the racing surface. The cars of that time had skinny tires almost like a motorcycle or bicycle, and traveled at speeds well over 100 miles an hour on the banks and often reached up to 50 degrees, with a maximum of 60 degrees with very little safety features. Another issue was the tracks themselves, which over time, being wood, would erode and rot. That's what happened to Kansas City Speedway after racing on it for only 2 or 3 years, from 1922 to 1924. The board tracks also claimed 4 Indy 500 champions that were killed on the wooden surfaces, including Howdy Wilcox, Ray Keach, Gaston Chevrolet, yes, from that Chevrolet family, and Joe Boyer from 1920 to 1929. In that environment, however, Frank Elliott didn't just survive, he thrived, while also finishing in the top 10 in 3 Indy 500s when they truly raced on bricks. Can you imagine what that was like? It was a wild, hairy, and very bumpy ride, and he also competed and won at the Fairgrounds Dirt Bull Rings, which are such a staple of American motorsports at that time. Off the track, Frank Elliott was a protege of the great Harry Miller and learned from him in California, while also driving the Miller Special to great success across America at Indy and Kansas City, but also tracks in California, Pennsylvania, New Hampshire, and North Carolina, among others. He found rides racing for legendary figures, including Ira Vale and Cliff Durant, whose father established General Motors. Like his mentor, Harry Miller, Elliott was also well known for his mechanical prowess. After ending his driving career in the late 1920s, Frank would stay involved in racing circles as mentor and tutor to future 3-time Indy winner Louis Meyer. He later returned to his Missouri roots in Lathrop once again. Frank Elliott, a true racing pioneer and now a member of the CARB Hall of Fame induction class of 2025.
Ray Cunningham is going to accept it.
Now, Frank Elliott does not have any family members remaining, so Ray Cunningham is going to accept the award. Just briefly, this was quite a story you dealt into with Frank Elliott.
An incredible story, just like Cockeyed Brown. So much fun researching a gentleman of this magnitude and what he meant. I mean, the board tracks were incredibly dangerous. He raced them all across the United States, but he also was a dirt track racer and raced the county fairgrounds and the state fairgrounds. But it was on the board tracks where those guys really proved their mettle over the time, and then also 6 Indy 500s. When it was really the Brickyard. And so you can imagine what that felt like with those little tires, no shock absorbers, no that was not that was some tough sledding, but a tough guy, and just like Cockeyed Brown from right here in the Kansas City area. And then when he retired, came back here, but he's involved with people like Louis Schneider, who won 3 Indy 500s, and of course, Harry Miller, the god of, racing during that era. So just an incredible individual and somebody that, I think it's really great. It's too bad there isn't a known living relative to accept this for him, but I'm very happy to.
He was a brave man and survived to tell about it. So that was something back in those days.
It certainly was. Like we discussed, I started researching approximately how many people may have died on the board tracks, and some of them that did die on the board tracks were Indy 500 winners too. On the Brickyard they won, but then they came back to the board tracks where, it was the meat and potatoes of those racing seasons for several years, and unfortunately some of those drivers perished. And you had guys like the Chevrolet brothers, and people like that we discussed in the story. And then when Kansas City Speedway opened, he was there. Tony Galata, another great name, of course Cockeyed Brown, all guys so important to not just racing around here, but really racing, period. They are true pioneers.
Thank you, Ray. Appreciate it. Frank Elliott, inductee into the CARB Hall of Fame. Our next pioneer, born in Fort Worth, Texas in 1928, the late Robert Ironhead Cox Sr. started his racing career in the Kansas City area at age 22 in 1950 and would compete for 25 seasons before retiring in 1974. Over the years, the driver with the colorful moniker of Ironhead showed his mettle racing midgets, jalopies, and modifieds around KC at tracks that included Olympic Stadium, Riverside, Lakeside, Marshall, Excelsior Springs, Sweet Springs of Sedalia, Belleville, Knoxville. He competed in the states of Missouri, Kansas, Iowa, Oklahoma, and Illinois. Cox earned the nickname the hard way, flipping 59 times at Olympic and 32 at Riverside. He survived all those crashes in an era when safety was typically almost non-existent. His favorite racing machine of all time was the 222 midget owned by Ski Halloran, used most famously in the 1949 Hollywood production The Big Wheel starring Mickey Rooney. Ironhead also worked for former Indy racer Joey Chitwood in his thrill show. As a stunt driver, he flipped driving on purpose for Chitwood at Olympic Stadium. Cox's competition during his racing career included going toe-to-toe with the likes of CARB Hall of Famers Bill Chenault, Judd Larson, Junior Hauer, Howard House, and the Welds, among others. He now joins all those legends in the CARB Hall of Fame as a pioneer inductee, and here to present the award tonight is 2016 CARB Hall of Fame inductee Bob Baker, and with us tonight to accept the honors is his son, Robert Cox, Jr.
Have him put the microphone up to the global can't hear everybody.
Congratulations. We need to hold the mic up close here so I make sure everybody can hear. But what are your memories of your dad?
Crazy. I don't know. He was pretty good. I don't think I would have done that, what he did. But, yeah, he was good.
And he had to be brave too, right?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he's known for flipping all those times at Olympic Stadium and Riverside.
Yes, sir.
So what would he want to be known for? What would be his big thing that he would want to be known for best?
Flipping cars.
So he took pride in that, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Any other story that can come out that we haven't already talked about?
Well, he retired in 74, And then my wife and I went to Arkansas, and he and my mom got my car out and went down to Bill Lutz's track. And guess what? He flipped it. So that was about the end of that. But yeah, he was a good dad.
But even, like one of our earlier inductees, he survived to tell about it. Tell about it.
Oh yeah, he talked to everybody about it.
So who you got here tonight helping celebrate Robert Ironhead Cox?
My wife, Sue, my niece, Christy, my daughter, Sierra, my son, Taylor, my sister, Deanna, and my daughter's husband, Billy.
Any final thoughts about your dad going into the CARB Hall of Fame?
I think he'd be real excited about it. He'd be real excited. But I'd like to thank everybody that voted on him in the Hall of Fame. And I got a lot of stuff to give you guys tonight. It was his.
You got a lot of memorabilia we brought here tonight.
Yeah, about 15 items. So I don't have no use, so we'll put it in the Hall of Fame.
That's where it belongs. Congratulations to you and your family.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Ladies and gentlemen, our newest member of the CARB Hall of Fame, pioneer Robert Ironhead Cox Sr. Paul D. Wallace was born at the beginning of the Great Depression in 1930. As a teenager around 1949, Wallace started his racing journey that would last until his passing in 2004. Known to many as Bud, Wallace participated as a driver, car builder, and engine builder in the greater KC area. Friendships and connections to the racing community were important to Wallace and were the lifeblood of his racing endeavors and relationships. Some of those included Collie Radiators, Summers and Son Welding with Arnie Summers, L&W Crankshaft, Clyde Ellis, Judd Larson, Joe Berry, and Ken Myers, just to name a few. Bud was renowned for building the flathead Ford motor and getting the maximum amount of horsepower from his engines. His flathead Fords became competitive for decades and compiled wins all the way up to and for several years after the introduction of the overhead valve pushrod motor. Wallace loved to race, and his prowess as a driver was underrated. This occurred because of the lack of the public's awareness of the records of his exploits and wins. It is said in his bio for the Hall of Fame that Bud won numerous times at KC area tracks of Olympic, Riverside, and Lakeside, as well as regional venues Savannah, Sweet Springs, Sedalia, and Topeka. His legacy was enhanced and continued with his son Mike's as well as his grandson's involvement in racing. It was stated that Bud never really cared about the trophies, track titles, or being recognized. He was there always first for the love of racing. That's why for many years he didn't get the recognition he truly deserved. That's all changed now with his enshrinement in the CARB Hall of Fame for 2025, a fitting tribute for Paul D. Bud Wallace, a true pioneer in KC racing history. 2014 CARB Hall of Fame inductee Bobby Lane is here tonight to present the honors to his son, Mike Wallace, our newest pioneer member of the CARB Hall of Fame, Bud Wallace.
Thanks, Bob. Thank you for being here. And this is for your dad. All here, everybody. Thank you. Thank you.
Congratulations. First, introduce yourselves and just kind of talk about, I assume, your dad?
My name's Rick Wallace. Paul was my grandpa,
Okay.
and this is Mike, my dad. I'll talk a little bit about Grandpa. I kind of ad-libbing this. I didn't know I'd be doing a speech, but hey, here we are.
No speech, just
Well, yeah.
you don't have to give a speech.
My grandpa, he was not a very braggadocious person. When I grew up around him, we would go out to restaurants or go to the racetrack or whatever, and he never talked a whole lot about it. I knew he loved racing, but there'd always be somebody come up to shake his hand. You know, hey, Grandpa, who is that? It was Thurman Lovejoy. Used to build motors for him. Used to race against him, you know, or Clyde Ellis or so. And me and Grandpa always talked about racing. I never got to do it. I got through school and went to college, never had a chance to do it while he was around. Lo and behold, a friend of our family, Bryn Wagner, he kind of got Grandpa back out in the shop, working on cars, and, you know, together with my dad and Bryn, they won 2 track champions at Thunder Hill, and I knew Grandpa was kind of still had it. By the time I got to racing, we had lost Grandpa, and you know, we got the car put together, and I went and asked my grandma, hey, can I put Bud Wallace on my car, you know, just to honor him? With a tear running down her cheek, you know, she shook her head yes. So Grandpa's been a great influence, you know, for me, for the Kansas City area. I know he's touched a lot of people, because I'd go race at Lakeside, and there'd always be somebody come up to me, hey, I know your grandpa, you know, just because they recognize the name. So it's a great honor that, you know, CARB has done this to my grandpa, and I want to thank the CARB Association and everybody for what they do.
Well, congratulations, Mike Wallace, your dad. He was quite a racer, but he was kind of a modest man, wasn't he?
Very modest. Only thing I can say is he really didn't care about trophies, and he, like all racers, liked winning, and that was his goal, but it was the friendships, the stories, and I grew up hearing them. One of the funniest ones, I'll try to be real short, involved Clyde Ellis and Joan. They, about 1959, Clyde and Joan and Mom and Dad towed Clyde's race car, 56 Ford, to Sedalia for a race on the mile. Well, the promoter didn't think that they had enough cars, so he walked around and told the guys if they would put their personal car in the race, they got some extra money. So Joan and Mom sitting in the grandstands. And the next thing Joan says, I think that's our car out there. It was a new 59 Ford Thunderbird that they had towed Clyde's car down there with. So, and the story, and I'm repeating this, the stories I heard. At the race started with Dad in the Thunderbird, and he had supposedly asked Clyde how long he wanted him to stay out there, and Clyde had told him, well, if you think you can do some good, just keep after it. Long story short, after 100 laps, Clyde finished something like 4th, and Dad finished 6th in the Thunderbird. No roll cage, windows rolled up, the air conditioner on. And so they had to drive it home that night, but it had 4 wore-out tires on it. I think they spent most of the purse money on buying tires for the Thunderbird. Anyway, that's one of the great stories. Ken Meyer, a good friend of the family, he couldn't be here tonight, told me something I didn't know. I knew Dad had won a championship modified sportsman race in the mid-late 50s. But I didn't know any details about it, and I talked with Ken a couple of weeks ago. He said, yeah, he said that was the first 100-lap race in Kansas City. And he said, Dad won it by a long ways. So that was his kind of moniker of the cars that he built. They was durable. They would last. But I think CARB, all of y'all that support this is a surprise, and I appreciate it.
Well, congratulations to you and your family. Outstanding.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, Paul D. Bud Wallace, our newest member of the CARB Hall of Fame as a pioneer. Now we're into the regular nominees, and here's our next one. For more than 50 years, Albert Al Soutart had a love for racing. It all started in 1954 when Polly Soutart's brother Judd McFarland gave Al a car he no longer wanted. They whipped the car into racing shape, and Al drove the car number 106 at Riverside Stadium in his first race in a career that would last until 1974. Over the decades, Al would race every Saturday night at Riverside while also competing at Olympic Stadium and the original Lakeside Speedway in Kansas City, Kansas. Soutart would compete in classes that included sportsmen, super modifieds, and sprint car. As Al got older, he developed the nickname Uncle Al from announcer Fred Broski, and his wife Polly became Aunt Polly. Uncle Al was well respected by his fellow competitors for his clean racing, and it is said Al never tried to endanger another driver to win any race. Al retired after a bad wreck in 1974. He had a trunk full of trophies, as well as awards from the KCAC in 1967 and Mark in 1968 and 1973. Winning the big race at Riverside in 1969 was his greatest moment behind the wheel, driving the Race-O-Rama. Uncle Al started 20th in a field of 24 cars and won the 35-lap feature. Uncle Al raced in the number 106, the number 155, number 99, and the number 3. With the 3, it is said to be a big surprise thanks to Jack Gibson, Gene Kelly, and hippie Bill Howell for building it. Polly Soutart joined her husband Al working at the tracks handling the complaint window, working as a scorer, selling tickets, keeping driver points, ordering and picking up trophies. And Polly helped create the first program at Riverside, and she was also the designer of the Monkey Trophy there. By the way, I saw one of those monkey trophies earlier tonight. That is quite a trophy. Uncle Al and Aunt Polly were a team, and they dedicated much of their lives to racing in many ways. And now they are together once again as inductees for the CARB Hall of Fame induction class for 2025. Here to present the honors are CARB Hall of Famers J.D. Cormack and Linda Howell. And here tonight to accept on behalf of the Soutarts are June Pashota and Don Soutart. Albert and Polly Soutart. Stand right up close to the, no, just stand and kind of line up a little closer to the front. Yeah, there you go. So you can all get the picture there. Go ahead. Stand a little bit over to the side there where it's a little bit farther away there. There you go.
Maybe stand on the other side, please.
Oh, he wants you. Oh, she wants you to do the other side.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so here we go. Up for a race.
June?
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, June Pashota, just your first memory that you want to tell the folks about Al and Polly. Uncle Al and Aunt Polly.
Yes. I guess I would say that.
I'll hold it.
Oh, okay. Don and I, actually, they were like our second parents. Farm families, somebody is divorced or whatever. Back then, my mother, unfortunately, was very young age. So we moved back to the farm where they all lived. And like I said, Uncle Albert and Aunt Polly were like our second parents because they're always there around us. So from the youngest time we could sit on a bench. We were at the racetrack every Saturday night, up and through the time we were adults, and even Don was even after that, my brother. We grew up seeing him build his own cars. I'd sweep up the scraps in the garage and metal stuff because I'm neat-nicked like that. And my uncle, I remember him putting, things on his, he would groove the groove of the tires where he had something hot and you would make instead of slicks, you'd make the grooves and things like that. But anyway, we had a great time going to the track and watching them. And, I don't know, I can go on about a bunch of other things if you like, but that's kind of the first memories we have is actually, and I think my cousin also said, we thought everybody's uncle was a race car driver because a lot of our family, that's what we did. We did that. I don't think you know, too, that his sister Irene also was a race car driver at Riverside. She was a Powder Puff Derby queen because women did get to drive once in a while there, and she drove my uncle's car. I think she drove the 106, and she also drove the 99. And I have a few pictures at the table of her, with checker flags. And, I want to mention something, too. At our table, anybody wants to come along. I brought tons of pictures, if you like to see way back when, not only him, but other drivers as well. So you're welcome to do that. Could I mention who else is at our table and have them?
Absolutely. Now, who else is at your table tonight?
Everybody at our table, stand up. Okay. To the far left is my grandson, Nathan. Next is Bill Sudart, my cousin, and his dad was Albert's brother. And he also was on the pit crew for a while. If you got to be 16, it was kind of a good thing if you got to do that. So he was, part of the racing family as well. And next is Jim and Bob Miller, right? Jim and Bob, right? But their father, Bob, was on the pit crew of Albert for many years. And he's not able to be here, but he was a long time, a part of the family doing that. And finally, the nice young lady, there's my daughter Annette, who also enjoys hearing the stories. She never got to see him because that was quite a long time ago. But at her garage, you should see it. She's got his tool chest. She's got pictures and a lot of things hanging up in there, too. So.
Now, we need to say that Polly is still with us. She couldn't be with us tonight, but she's very much enjoying this, isn't she?
Yes. Aunt Polly's 94 years old now, and she was not able to be here. A couple years ago, maybe she could have, and she could have probably told you many more things. They met, she was only 17 actually she was 15 when she met him, but, and he's like, she was 17, he was like 24 when they got married. So they were together over 50 years at least. And like I said, she, from the very beginning, was a part of the racing, both of them. Her brother Judd, was the one who introduced Albert. But Albert himself, I'm going just slightly back, he always, as long as, from the time he could drive a car, he loved it. Early story of him briefly, it's like after church, I remember them saying, all the boys would be driving past, there's my son so-and-so, such a nice boy. And eventually here would come Albert with the loud pipes racing down the street, and my grandmother just never said a word, never said, there's my son. But Polly, yeah, she did tons of stuff. At the table, there is a book that I have that has a bunch of things, but also if you looked at it, you would see how detailed and intricate it is to be up in that booth and trying to track drivers, the numbers and how many laps they've made and all of this. So, you know, she's kind of behind the scenes, but she was so much a part of it, both of them. Always together, always together.
And they were a fixture in Kansas City racing. Congratulations to you and your family, and to Polly for this honor.
And also we want to thank everybody here who, you know, the nominations, those that voted for them. He would be overwhelmed if he were here today, and also Aunt Polly would be too, very surprised. But I will take her the plaque, and we'll put it on her wall. She does have racing pictures in her room, and you know, anything else that comes, our pictures and things, we'll, you know, give to her and talk to her about it. And it'll be a big thing for her to talk about with the Golden Girls. So thank you so much.
June, congratulations. Don, congratulations to you. Al and Paulie Sutar, did you want to say something?
No.
Okay.
He was the big, oh, typical. He was also on the crew a lot from the time, you know, he could. And other race drivers as well, he would pit for them. So.
Congratulations. Al and Paulie Sutar, CARB Hall of Famers.
Okay, everybody. We're going to get ready to eat, but before we eat, I have some goodie bags. So I have some names. So basically, when I call your name, go over to the merchandise table over there and you get a free goodie bag. Okay? Tracy Arnold is the first one. Is she here? Okay. Cambry Preston Peterson. Cambry here. Am I pronouncing that right? Okay. Ron Covell. Bob Cox Jr. No, I think we ought to put this one back. Jamie Hager. Oh, Lord. Charlene Carrick. Tim Carrick. Those tickets must have been stuck together. Okay, then I have Heather Reber. And Jamie, also your spouse. I have a ticket for her. Okay? So those 10 people, if you would go over to the merchandise table, you will get a goodie bag. And let me check here just a minute. We're going to start serving the meal. There are 2 buffet lines, so tables over there. You go on both sides of the table. Okay? So you should get there through pretty good, pretty fast. And then after dinner, we will start with our second half. I hope you guys are enjoying yourself. Thank you. $50-50. If you need a 50-50 ticket, we're going to do that here in just a minute too. So if you do, Janine Parkinson over here, she's got them, and Sherry Emily, I don't know where she is. But if you want to buy 50-50, we're about ready to close that too. So, okay, so Kirk, you ready for the next inductee?
Nina Jennington has been involved in racing for over 60 years in many capacities, including owner, sponsor, wife, mother, and grandmother in a family of racers that includes 3 generations. She has also been a significant contributor and supporter of the CARB Hall of Fame for many years. Nina graduated from North Kansas City High School, and in the 1960s, her husband Gene would rise to the top of the supermodified ranks in the Kansas City area, winning 3 straight supermodified track championships in 1967, 1968, and 1970 in Bill Ryan's Batmobile at KCMO's Olympic Stadium. Gene also competed successfully at tracks that included the original Lakeside Speedway, Riverside Stadium, the Mid-America Fairgrounds, Shawnee, and I-70. Gene would then build and own a number 3 Emerald Color Sprint Car Super Modified and win 2 more track titles at Olympic while taking the show on the road to race with great success in sanctioning bodies IMCA and BCRA in sprint car racing up into the late 1970s, and Nina was there every step of the way. Before turning his attention to the midget ranks, Nina supported Gene, who became one of the best in that type of racing machine, starting in USAC and in events that included the Chili Bowl, the Belleville Midget Nationals, as a builder, owner, and driver. Meanwhile, the Genetons raised a family that included 2 boys, Steve Bieber Geneton, and Mike, with Steve becoming a very good racer in both midgets and sprints as well. Nina became the greatest supporter at the track and away from the track of first her husband and then her son, then later her grandson Ayrton. Ayrton, also a championship caliber racer in sprint cars to this day, often with the familiar number 3 on the race cars. After Gene started cutting back on his racing, he incorporated his incredible mechanical skills as an engineer, starting a company with his wife Nina called Ozark Barge and Dock, which would later include Steve in 1989. Over the years, with a lot of blood, sweat, and tears involved, the company led by the Geneton family would become an institution in the Ozarks. Tragically, Gene passed away in 2006, but over the years, Nina and Steve have continued with great success running the family business. Gene would be honored and remembered for his racing achievements with his induction into the CARB Hall of Fame in 2005 and the BCRA Hall of Fame, among others. Nina Geneton has been a great supporter of racing in and outside the family as a car owner, sponsor, and Hall of Fame benefactor. Her support of the CARB Hall of Fame has been significant over the years, with her sponsorship of the banquet and her donations to the Hall giving her elite status as a platinum contributor, the highest level an ambassador can achieve. Now tonight, it's her turn to achieve official Hall of Fame status. Our newest member of the Central Auto Racing Boosters Hall of Fame, Nina Geneton. And here to present the award to Nina tonight is Martha McVeigh. Stand right up close to the stage there. And turn around and face the crowd. Yeah, there you go.
Now hold God, wait a minute. Hold God. Hold God. I'm gonna take that home. Take it back.
Thank you.
Congratulations, man! This is a huge thing, isn't it?
It is, really is.
You know, I want you to tell this story. You told it to me the other day when we were speaking on the phone. You know, we got these big haulers nowadays that haul these race cars all over the country, $1 million rigs. But you had a story about getting a car home from one of Gene's races. Tell us about that.
Okay. Well,
Hold the mic out.
Gene and I got married on a Friday afternoon.
Here, I'll hold the mic.
Okay, Friday afternoon. We got married. The very next day, we was at Riverside Racetrack, And at that point, he was just doing demolition. So anyhow, he took our last $20 to enter. Thank God he won. But Sunday morning, him and I went to pull the junk home. Well, back then, there was no trailers. There was a chain. So needless to say, I hooked the chain on and I'm pulling him home. He's back there slamming on the brakes. I saw him doing all this hand motion crap. And so when we got home, he was chewing me out. So the next race, needless to say, he won and he wanted me to go pull him home. And I said, I'm not doing it until you tell me what all that crap you're doing back there means. Because he would throw on the brakes, it would jerk the car that I was towing him with, which at that point was barely good enough. It was not much better than the car he did in the demolition. But anyhow, the younger generation and these race car drivers now don't know how lucky they are that they have all those fancy trailers, because I'm going to tell you, we had a chain for a long time.
But, you know, racing has changed a lot. Have you seen it all? Just what it's like to be a wife of a racer. You're now a grandmother of a successful racer. How hard is it to watch your sons, your grandson, and your husband race?
Well, to be honest, I don't remember ever worrying about Gene. And I don't remember worrying much about Steve, but when Ayrton's on the track, I am a nervous wreck. And it's a real good deal. Sometimes I'm watching it at home because I'm having some very bad language. But it's changed a lot. I don't think it's quite as used to. We had a lot of fun. People stayed after the track, and it's gotten to be a lot of business now. And it's very, very expensive, but I will safely say 90% of my friends are in racing.
But it's a lot safer than it used to be. The stakes are so much higher because the money is so big, right?
Right. Yeah, I know Ayrton just got some kind of new seat system that is supposed to be a lot safer. And some of the wrecks they have, it's a miracle they aren't getting killed, but the safety stuff is a lot better.
Talk about your support of the CARB Hall of Fame. You've been one of the big, as we pointed out, you're a platinum contributor to the Hall of Fame. But just kind of talk about the work that it takes by a lot of people to put these events on.
Oh yeah, and I think it's very, very important that CARB stays around, and it's a tax write-off. But it's real important to, sponsor and be behind the stuff you believe in.
Yeah, because the recognition of these drivers that can be passed down long after they're gone is so important. And we've heard Hall of Famers say over the years that their biggest honor is going into the Hall of Fame over all of the trophies that they earned.
Oh, yeah. I was surprised I got nominated and really surprised I got elected, but really happy that I did.
Well, you're a Hall of Famer. No question about that. Nina, congratulations.
Thank you.
All right. How about Nina Jeniton, ladies and gentlemen? From the 1980s into the new millennium, Bayshore, Kansas racer Jeff Clem became a racing star, running at CARB area tracks that included Riverside Stadium, I-70 Speedway, Lakeside, Savannah, and CMS in Warrensburg, among other venues on both dirt and pavement, before retiring as a driver in 2003 when I-70 stopped running late models, and so he focused on his daughter Lauren in her racing endeavors. Jeff Clem was born in 1965, and as a child would hear the roar of the engines from the old Lakeside Speedway dirt track located at 92nd and Leavenworth Road. At age 17, he started attending the races there with his brother Mike, and a passion for racing developed that has served him well throughout his career. By age 18, he took the wheel himself in 1983, racing at Riverside Stadium in the four-cylinder mini-strengths, a class he also raced at Central Missouri Speedway and Savannah. He was good enough that season in the diminutive cars to win CARB Rookie of the Year at Riverside, and a racing career was born. Clem would then move into the fendered cars in 1990 at the new paved Lakeside Speedway, driving in pony stocks, and then charged into another new division in 1992-1993, racing in Chargers. In 1994, Clem moved up to the Fast and Furious late model division, driving for Tim Schumacher and KC Colors. KC Colors had also previously sponsored him when he raced Chargers. Jeff would race for Tim until 1997 when he broke his wrist and subsequently lost his ride, leading Clem to start his own team in 1998. Over the next 6 years, that new venture proved to be very successful. While driving for Schumacher, Clem was responsible for preparing and maintaining the cars. Jeff would take that knowledge to his new team. Bruce Eller, as his crew chief, added another key component to his future success. Clem became a superstar at the I-70 paved high-banked half-mile during that time, as well as Lakeside. He also competed full-time in the Artgo Touring Series, a move that also sharpened his skills for racing locally. From 1998 to 2003, Clem won 5 out of the 6 I-70 Speedway track titles. Was 2001 the only season that he didn't win the title because he was running a part-time schedule that year. Clem would post double-digit wins in all 5 of those championship years, with a high of 15 victories in 1999. The Jayhawk State Racer would win back-to-back World Cups in 1998 and 1999 in a career that saw him win 140 features total in a 20-year span, along with 7 track championships, the 5 late model championships at I-70 and 2 Charger championships over that span. A legendary rivalry also developed during Clem's career when he sparred on many occasions with CARB Hall of Famer John O'Neill Jr. in what would be dubbed the Grocery Store Wars, featuring Clem racing the Hy-Vee sponsored machine and O'Neill running in the Price Chopper late model. Now Jeff joins his rival O'Neill in the Central Auto Racing Boosters Hall of Fame. Here to make the presentation tonight is CARB Hall of Fame inductee Skip Richardson. Ladies and gentlemen, let's make welcome to the stage our next Hall of Fame inductee, Jeff Clem.
Congratulations.
Stand a little closer.
Got it?
I'll hold this one. Take those up there.
Hold them, Jeff, while you leave.
Congratulations.
Thank you, appreciate it.
You can hold that, whatever you want to do.
Okay, you can go ahead and hold it.
Okay.
I'll stand up here.
He's gonna hold it.
Are you gonna pop that champagne? You'd like to pop that champagne cork right now, wouldn't
I don't have a screw in here to get that out of there.
They probably wouldn't like that if we sprayed that all over the place here, would we? Congratulations, man. It's you've had quite a career, but just I want to talk about the late model days at I-70 Speedway. You and John O'Neill were going at it, and you won a lot of races out there and a lot of championships. How were you able to carry that for when you were with Tim Schumacher, KC Colors, carry that forward? You owned your own team.
Well, yeah, we carried it over when we built our own stuff. All the stuff we learned by running the touring series, the Artgo series. And then I had good help. I had, we'll kind of dedicate this night to Bruce Eller. He ended up being my crew chief when I had my own team. And we lost Bruce, I think it's been 3 years ago this January. So, but he was a big help to my racing when we was working, racing out at I-70. So I really appreciate that and dedicate this night to Bruce.
I-70 Speedway back in the 90s, back in the time where you went in all these championships, was a unique weekly racing facility. There was really nothing like it anywhere in the country. It was a regional racetrack, drew crowds from everywhere. What made I-70 Speedway so unique in race, not just in pavement racing, but dirt racing?
Well, it was a super fast, high bank track, and it was very unforgiving. If you got in a wreck out there, it was usually a pretty bad wreck. And as you've seen a lot of videos over the years of, there wasn't any easy wrecks out at I-70. It was high banked, and it was expensive to run, and it really took a lot of dedication and car prep to make your car last the whole year.
And you set up your own race cars. You worked on your own race cars. Where did you get that knowledge growing up?
Oh man, just from my dirt days, different guys would help me, reading a lot of books, learning the cars, and building my own motors as well. We had Dennis Melvin, the machine shop, done our machine work, but yet we would do the assembly on all of our engines, and just learning as much as you could about the cars, which helped you set up the cars and then make them a well-handling car. But that was the biggest deal, was just learning the cars really well.
Let's talk about those championship years. 5 championships and 6 seasons in the late 90s, early 2000s. Just kind of talk about how tough the competition was out there. You raced against not only John O'Neill, but some other pretty big hot shoes.
Yeah, John O'Neill was out there. I think Clint Boyer won the championship the year we didn't, I believe. I'm not sure, but Clint Boyer raced out there. John O'Neill, a lot of good racers was out there.
Now, beyond that, you retired. Probably, 2003, I think they quit running late models out there about that time. I-70 was still open after that, but I think they shut down at that time. You focused your attention. Lauren was becoming a racer.
Yeah, we started her out in quarter midgets, and she moved up to micro spents and then into the 305s. And it was pretty tough to try to race myself and then have the daughter racing. So when she started racing, I just kind of quit that and started taking care of her race cars and doing that.
And she was pretty good, by the way. She could still get in there and race, I think, win.
She won quite a few races. Her last few years racing, she won, I think, 4 out of the, I'm not sure how many races they had that year, but she won 4 of them. And probably the only reason we quit racing because the track closed down, because I don't think we knew how to stop racing. It was just, if the track closed, that was our out.
What is your biggest memory from those years at I-70 or anywhere for that example? You mentioned you raced full-time on the ARTCO circuit for a while, but what is your biggest memory that you take away from your whole career?
There was a weekend that they had the late model trucks came in, and Gary's Speed Shop in Kansas had a late model truck, and he brought to I-70 Speedway. Now, the week before, Dick Trickle drove this truck at a road course in Wisconsin. So he come to I-70 Speedway, and they're going to have that race that night. And he asked the owner, said, hey, I need somebody to drive this car. And I think it was Brad McDonald at the time. He said, hey, have Jeff Clem drive it. So we got into that car, and this was a story about Bruce, because that car was not set up to run I-70 at the time. So we had to change the springs, change the shocks, do a whole bunch of work to that car. Or that actually was the late model truck, not a car. But anyway, Bruce was a big part of that night, and that was a big accomplishment for him, and he was proud of that night because we ended up winning the race. And after doing all that work, changing that truck around and winning that race that night, he was really proud of that night. So that was a special weekend.
Who you got with you at the table here tonight?
My wife, daughter, and her son-in-law over there. That's who I have tonight.
Well, congratulations tonight. Any final thoughts about going in the Hall of Fame? That's a big deal.
Yeah, thank you to everybody who voted us in, and we appreciate CARB having this.
Congratulations to you.
Thank you.
Jeff Clem, ladies and gentlemen, our next Hall of Famer here for 2025. Dick Elliott's 60-plus year racing involvement has been in many different capacities, from owner, driver, engine builder, crew chief, fabricator, and mechanic, with literally hundreds of feature victories and numerous championships at over 20 racetracks across the Midwest. Dick's interest was fueled when he started going to the races with his local hero and icon Lloyd Glendenning in 1963. During those early years, he also hung out and assisted future Knoxville Raceway Hall of Famer Hank Smith with his sprint car. It wasn't long before Elliott knew he wanted to race his own car, and it was at a time that you had to have the ability to create your own machine from scratch. There was no ready-made race machines or parts off the shelf in those days. You had to innovate and be a good welder. So as a high school teenager, that's what he did. Build and race a 1958 Ford Fairlane powered by an inline six-cylinder engine with the number 29 on the side at the Ringgold County Speedway quarter mile, located just a few miles outside of his hometown of Mount Ayr, Iowa. The competition was stiff, as he was now racing against his hero Lloyd Glendenning and other longtime veterans. But as a driver, Dick held his own, and over the next few years built his first late model and recruited the legendary Earl Wagner and future sprint car star Mike Brooks to drive the new car at the State Fair Speedway in Des Moines and Southern Iowa Speedway in Oskaloosa, where all the big late model stars of the day competed. Once Brooks went full-time sprint car racing, Elliott stepped in the seat and drove at Des Moines, Oskey, and the Adams County Speedway in Corning, where he claimed the 1975 late model track championship. Elliott's experience in the sprint car world continued with Smith after Hank's driving career ended following a serious accident in 1969 at Knoxville Raceway. Among Hank's high-level drivers Dick worked with were former Knoxville National winners Jay Woodside and Rayleigh Goodwin, Wagner, and CARB Hall of Famer Junior Parkinson. Elliott later maintained sprint car engines for Hank's son and six-time Knoxville Raceway season champion Randy Smith as his open-wheel career got going, and later in the Guy Graham and Phil Durstone cars during two of those championship seasons. His engines were part of 5 Knoxville Nationals Saturday A mains, including a second-place finish in 1979, plus 2 other top 10s. Dick spent 3 years maintaining the motors for Graham from 1979 to 1982 with Billy Robinson, Larry Gates, and Rocky Hodges as drivers in addition to Randy. In 1990, Dick teamed up with Hot Shoe Jeff French in a formidable dirt late model effort, resulting in the 1991 IMCA National Championship, 1 IMCA Summer Series crown, and 2 track championships at the State Fair Speedway in Des Moines. He won NASCAR Golden Wrench Awards in 1993 and 1995. Over the last 25 years, Dick's focus has been on his son Dennis's racing career. The father-son combo has captured 8 track championships, including 5 straight at I-35 Speedway, 2 at US 36 Raceway, and 1 title at the Davis County Speedway in Bloomfield, Iowa, plus dozens upon dozens of feature wins and high-level USRA national standings. Presenting the award tonight to Dick is 2011 CARB Hall of Fame inductee and legend Gene Claxton. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm very proud to call him my brother, and to the stage, our CARB Hall of Famer, Dick Elliott.
Come on, Pokies, let's go.
You hold this,
All right, we got to talk. Let's stand up here. I'm lucky enough to have seen all the race cars you ever had. But first of all, you and Gene are the same age, I think. So I think that's pretty noteworthy right there off the bat. But let's talk about that first race car. It was a six-banger.
Yeah, we raced those. That was the rules back then at our getting started, and I learned a lot about six-cylinder motors back in those days. But yeah, they were a challenge, but we kept them going.
Why did you decide to go into dirt late model racing instead of build a sprint car?
Well, it was just a progression that we decided to do. I never was too keen at the first to want to drive it because I had too much invested in it to start with. So that's how I got those guys to drive for me. Right off the bat, when the car was done. This is about the time Hank and Earl were starting to wind down, and Earl thought he still wanted to race a little bit, and he knew I had this. I'd been working on this car all year, and we got it done, and Earl wanted to drive it, and so Earl drove it for 2 or 3 nights. We took it to Oskaloosa and places, and back then the Boone Nationals was earlier in the year, and we went to there with it, and Earl didn't want to drive it all the time, and so Mike had come to me, and I told Mike, I said, when Earl gets done wanting to run with it, I said, well, I'll turn it over to you. And so we ran for a couple of years, and then Mike got to wanting to go to sprint car racing, and so there the car set. So then I'd get in and out of it and race it when I could. But through those years, I was still helping Hank, and then Randy started to race and got involved with that situation. So it was a fun time to run cars back then.
I want to talk more about the sprint cars in a little bit, but dirt late model racing at that time in the state of Iowa was about as good as anywhere you could get. Oskaloosa, Southern Iowa Speedway on a Wednesday night. That was like a national touring series every week there. The competition level was just incredible. Guys like Ed Sanger, Kurt Hansen, all the guys out of Des Moines, Don Hoffman. I mean, you raced against all those guys.
Yes, it was pretty stiff competition back then, and Des Moines was the same way, And then as time went on, we progressed and found our way coming this way. We like to run all those fair races because in between working and helping with, I was always helping Hank with stuff because I'd go places with him, so I didn't race full time, but toward the end of the year, we always like to go to all the fair races and that kind of thing. So it was a fun experience.
All right, your experience in sprint car racing. You built sprint car motors. It's a lot different now than it was back then. Just talk about what the sprint car engines were like back in the 70s.
Well, when I started helping Randy and his father-in-law, Guy Graham, on those motors, we built those motors out of all stock parts. Except for we bought a set of Brodex cylinder heads cords for them, but those were all cast iron blocks with stock rods in them, and they didn't. I would say back then we didn't have $6,000 or $7,000 in an engine, and of course we were running without wings, which helped. And when Knoxville went to wings, I mean, we scattered those motors instantly. That's when we had to start buying good parts, but up until then, it wasn't that expensive to run those motors back then the way we was doing it. But when the wings come on, that changed the whole picture, and we had to get with the program then. So,
yeah, everything changed. Of course, safety was a big reason they went to wings back in the early 80s. Just talk about racing with Randy. He was a 6-time champion at Knoxville, and he drove many different race cars during that span, didn't he?
Yeah, Randy, of course, here we are. All of us grew up in town together there, and we all, started out. Hank hauled us all over the country, and I had the opportunity to get to race and help with the car with the best drivers you could ever ask for. I mean, that's where I learned that if you want to have success in this sport, if you can't do it yourself, you better get somebody that can do it for you. So I was always pretty good about trying to pick the ones that would help with when I was needing a driver or somebody to drive the car. But you know, that was an experience I can never forget. Getting the opportunity to work with that caliber of drivers through those years that all those people participated with. But as Randy grew up, he was a little younger than I am, but he come along really quick and had a lot of success. You know, I was a big part of some of that as he grew up and went through that, especially when his father-in-law owned the car and that. But there would be times Randy, he'd venture off and drive for somebody else, so we had to find somebody else to drive it, and that's why those other drivers were involved in that. And then I kind of quit after Guy quit, and then I went to Arizona for a couple of years and came back home, and then in '88, Randy was wanting to go back to racing. He put this deal together with Phil Durstone in the car, and so he said he come to me to ask me to help him, and at that time we bought all that. We didn't buy the complete engines because it cost too much, but we bought all the parts from Shaver and we assembled them ourselves, and we did all that work ourselves that year that we had in ’88, and so it was a very successful year that year. I'll never forget the one story. We had we had two Gambler race cars and bought them both the same time. Well, when we put the first one together, we set them both on the cement at the shop, and one of them had just a little wiggle in it. And so, let's save that in back for the spare. And we put the other one together and had really good success with it. And one night he backed it into the fence at Knoxville, and we had to do something different because the Nationals was coming up, and we had to so we just took the other, let's switch everything over, put the car back together and get it over at the other, just like it was. We came to Lakeside. I think then it was at the old track. And Randy come in after qualifying. He said, that's the most ill-handling, hard-to-drive thing he'd ever driven. And this was the car that had the little wiggle in the frame. And that was on a Tuesday night maybe or something, because we put that car together that quick. We come back home that night, took that car apart, and sent Davey Whitworth was working with us, sent Davey back to Nashville, back to Gambler to get the old one fixed. Put a new rear end on it, new rear clip on it. Come back, put it back together before Knoxville that week. Went back out and won the feature at Knoxville. So it was, so that was the end of that spare car. That never ever got used again for us. But that was kind of an experience. But no, Randy ended up having a good, successful season through his years.
Your son Dennis is here tonight. You spent the last quarter of a century racing with your son. What's that like, racing with him? He had a lot of success.
That's been fun. That's probably been the most fun I've ever had, is being able to race with my son, doing that kind of thing, and it's been a good season doing that. He's down to doing stock cars now, which only because of places to race and things. He's busy with his family too. So no, it's been a ride.
And you got both your sons here tonight. Brad is also here, your wife Donna, and it's been quite a ride.
Yes, it has. I want to share with you another thing. One thing, and I just don't want to leave here without sharing this with you. I want to first of all thank my family for putting up with all the years of my being gone and doing this sport. Especially my wife. Here it is, Valentine's Day, and this is a really good place to bring her for Valentine's Day. Wouldn't want to leave it out. But anyway, I want to tell you about her. She used to come to the shop when I first started, when I was building that first late model, and she swore we was married. And she'd come there and she'd sit on a 5-gallon bucket and watch me work all night. And Hank and Lloyd both told me, said, she's a keeper. You don't get too many of them that'll put up with that all the time. Just come in there and sit on a bucket all night and watch you work. Well, that was one experience. And then we went racing one night at Des Moines. And of course, we all partied after the races, always when it was over, and this is when Mike was driving, and we headed for home, and I pull off at the first rest area south of Des Moines. He says, "What are you doing?" I said, "Well, I'm not going any further. I'm not able to." And she says, "Well, I've got to get home. My mother's expecting me home." I said, "Well, then you better learn how to tow a race car." She crawled out, got behind the wheel, and headed for home. So she's been a big part of my life. The only bump in the road we had is when Dennis got married. We had a nice wedding for Dennis, and Hager come up, and Hager wasn't able to go home that.
He's here tonight, by the way.
Oh, is he here? And anyway, she's really never been the same since that. The night Hager stayed all night with us, and I won't go any further. Jamie.
We'll leave it at that.
Jamie was naughty.
There we go. Well, final thoughts. Great honor.
Well, yeah, I want to thank those that voted for me and got me in this thing. We spent a lot of time racing in Missouri, and I want to say one more thing before I leave. We always enjoyed coming down, and because I was in between helping with one of the sprint car deals and that, so we always liked coming down to run the fair races. And I want to tell a quick story that I'll never forget, because I'm sure some of you that's in this room are probably there. But we always liked to come down and run the mile track at Sedalia. And the first time we came, Hank says, "Where are you going?" I said, "I'm going down. I want to go down and try that mile track." I'd been down here with him before, and we always enjoyed coming down and watching them crazy people on the motorcycles run it. Well, I got to where I had a car that was still capable of running on a track like that, because we had those great big old motors in them then at that time. And so the first time I came down with there, Hank came down too, and I come in from qualifying on that deal, and I come in and I said, "Hank, I'm having a hard time figuring out when to let off on this deal down here, because you could just go forever down them straightaways." And so Hank says, "Well," because I didn't qualify real well, the first time I did that, I had to start kind of toward the back. So Hank says, "Here's what we're going to do." He says, "I'm going to go out there on that straightaway, and I'm going to see where them good cars are letting up." And he said, "Every time you come around, I'm going to be moving down." Well, he moved down. Criminy sakes, he had me clear down in the turn. He says, "Don't let up till you see me standing there." And so we was really hauling the mail. Well, before that day was over, we finished pretty good. And I don't know, we might have finished 6th or 7th in the deal at that first race. Well, we got the bug, and we always had to come back to that every year. And then one year they lost track of the count. And then the last year we ran that, I believe it was 1984, they said everybody had to supply a counter. And I think you'll remember that.
I remember that well. Yeah, I think I was the counter that day.
We qualified pretty good that time. We qualified better because we run it several times. And they had the track all prepped and ready to go. Had it wetted down pretty good. And they said, "We got a delay." Ronald Reagan was there to make a special speech for running for president at that time. So they delayed the race. Well, the track completely dried out. So they went ahead and started the race. And I have never been in a dust storm as bad as that turned out to be. And I'm sure there's some that's still here. But about 10 or 12 or 15 laps into that race, some guy, we was already starting to lap people, and one of the tail runners, I don't know what happened to him, but he quit. He got sideways on the front straightaway. And here we are all coming, and Kirk, you'll remember that because you was up on that stage down there.
I know Gene Claxton remembers that day very well. I know he's here. I know he remembers that.
Well, anyway, that was an ugly scene because we cut some cars clear in two on that. It's a wonder, and I can remember Bob Lawton. He was the promoter, I think, at that time, but he came down there looking in the windows of everybody's race car, see if everybody still had their arms and legs, because it was horrible, the dust. You couldn't see from me to you, and here we were out there going as fast.
And you still got that race car, by the way.
Yeah, I still got that one, and but we raced it after that, but that was one of the last times we did any good with it, so. But anyway, but again, I want to thank everybody. This is a great thing that you have here, and we've had a good run. All the racetracks down here that we've liked to run at, and it's been a good run for all of it.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, Dick Elliott. Awesome stuff. Karen?
Okay, guys, we got some more goodie bags to give away, and then we're going to do the 50-50, and we're going to have our birthday boy do the drawing. So first, the giveaways. So if I call your name, go to the table over there. Carol Maselli, Carrie Richardson, Kevin Wood, Deanna Cox, Arrington Jennington, Kirk Elliott, Woody Long, Rita Mulick, is that correct? Okay. Chris Jones, Bobby Lane, Dean Galvin, Stacy Mulick, Clayton Hughes, Sierra Jackson, and Jennifer Surprise. So if you had called your name, go to the table, please. Okay, we also have the auctions.
These are the winners. They can meet me over there.
Okay, I'm just going to list the winners so you go over and see what you got. So June, Lovejoy, Tony, Sherry, Bob Baker, Buford and Justice, Mary Marshall. Oh, Karen Darley got something. Tina Gannon, Chris Nelson, Bobby Lane, and Woody Long. Okay, and our winning 50-50 ticket is, and by the way, your share is $211. Oh, that's hard to see. So get your tickets out. It's a blue ticket. The number is 665. Does that mean you won it? Okay, I got the money. If you want it, I got the money. You got to see me.
Hey, Karen, I'm going to ask you, do we need everybody to stay around for some more group photos after we're done here?
Yes.
So all the inductees, please stay because we need to take a couple of, where are we going to take those photos at? Right here. So don't run off after the end of the program. We're going to take a group photo. Thank you.
Who won the 50-50?
That's me.
Okay, who won the 50-50? Where you at? $665. Who is it? Okay, your money's over there. Brenda's got your money. Is it Arrington? Geez, are we paying for your thrift car?
KC area racer Joe Cobb started his involvement in racing as a driver in 1976 at Riverside Stadium in North KC and retired from the sport 50 years later in 2015. Cobb raced all over the Midwest states that included Kansas, Missouri, Nebraska, Oklahoma, Iowa, Illinois, Texas, Minnesota, and South Dakota. His first season, Joe would run a six-banger, then moved into the late model ranks, racing and excelling on both dirt and pavement. Among his accolades and accomplishments were winning the late model track title at Adrian Speedway in 1986, earning Most Improved Driver Award at the Old Lakeside Speedway in 1979, and winning Mechanic of the Year on another occasion at Lakeside in 1990. Over the years, Joe has also helped out his daughter and future nationally known racer, Jennifer, as well as the Carrick family. Among Joe's favorite awards were winning the Most Popular Driver Award at Adrian Speedway and the CARB Special Award, named in honor of the Tom Carrick family, after Joe got his start in racing, helping future CARB Hall of Famer Tom Carrick in the pits. Cobb said in an article printed in a Lakeside program that tinkering with cars has always been his only hobby, that and collecting trophies, which over his racing career totaled over 200. When asked what advice he would give someone starting out in racing, Joe stated, "Find $1 million to use for racing, and maybe if you're lucky when you walk away, maybe you can take $1,000 with you." Joe Cobb loves racing and cars, and what he got out of the sport gave him more than $1 million worth of memories, and now another much-deserved award to be added to this collection is an induction plaque representing his enshrinement into the CARB Hall of Fame of 2025. To present the honors tonight to Joe is 2014 CARB Hall of Fame inductee John Lane. Ladies and gentlemen, let's make welcome to the stage our next inductee to the CARB Hall of Fame, Joe Cobb.
He's gonna take care of everything for you.
Happy birthday, Joe. Is this got to be one of your most memorable birthdays, I would say, wouldn't it not?
Yeah, it'd rate right up there.
Stand close here. We'll get everybody where they can see you.
I'm trying to hide.
You're trying to hide. What is the biggest memory of your whole racing career? You've been down through a lot. What's the biggest thing that stands out?
Oh, gosh, I don't know. Maybe running the Craftsman truck at Eldora, or winning the late model race at I-70, or running this guy's car in one summer and winning several races with it. I'd have to say all three of them, at least, and there's a lot of others.
And then you won that track championship at Adrian Speedway. That was big.
Yeah. Okay.
So pavement and dirt, you raced both. Just what was the big, you started out on dirt, I would assume, and then switched to pavement. What was the biggest transition you had to make going from dirt to pavement?
Well, when we went from dirt to pavement was when Lakeside put pavement down, and we actually run a dirt car there the first year. And then after that, transferred to the modifieds. But the transfer was not actually from dirt to pavement because we were still in a dirt late model.
So then you figure out you had to get actually purpose-built paved cars in order to be successful?
No, the Rayburn late model I had was too wide, so they outlawed it.
So that took care of that. That took that out of your hands, right?
Exactly. But yeah, our dirt late models were a lot wider than the asphalt cars, so they didn't want you competing with a dirt car. So then second year they went all asphalt built cars.
You know, when Lakeside first, of course, I-70 was dirt for a number of years before they switched it back to pavement. So a lot of guys were just kind of learning this pavement thing all together. What was the biggest thing that surprised you about racing at the new Lakeside Speedway versus racing on dirt?
Well, you didn't run sideways.
Yeah.
You had to keep the car straight. And the tire wear was a big thing, which that didn't fit in my category. I liked going sideways, but
it's more fun that way, isn't it?
Feels like it to me.
Larry Phillips was a big guy back then, won a lot of championships. What impact did he have on everybody when he raced both at I-70 and Lakeside?
Well, I believe he made everybody step up their game a little bit. They didn't realize what it was like until he started running there, and then you realize that payment was a serious thing.
Your daughter Jennifer became a well-known racer across country. How proud of you what she accomplished? And she's, I assume, still at a little bit, right?
Well, it's something that I was definitely real proud of. And to go there and see what all was taking place, it's really different than what you think watching it on TV. It's not your local race night.
Yeah, it's a whole new ball game. What else stands out from your days racing at I-70 Speedway? We talked to Jeff Clem a little bit about this earlier. It was a unique place in all of racing, a weekly racetrack, but there were very few tracks cross country like I-70 Speedway, right?
I don't remember ever going to another track like I-70.
Yeah.
It's kind of unique, and it was just extremely fast. I remember that running the mile at Sedalia, the speed you were going there was similar to the way it felt at I-70. And it was nothing like Lakeside. It was really different.
What is the biggest experience at I-70 that stands out, good or bad?
Well, I had a good night there in the late model in dirt racing. And I was buying my cars from a guy named Roger Stoa in Minnesota. And every Monday he wanted me to call him, and we would discuss what transpired over the weekend, and then he would give me pointers on what I could do. And every Monday when I called him, I told him I felt like I was just short on horsepower. And finally he told me, he asked me if I was flat-footing it around the racetrack. And I said, no, I lift a little bit. And he said, well, don't say nothing about horsepower until you flat-footed it around the racetrack. Well, we went down there on a Saturday night, flat-footed it around the racetrack, and won the feature.
This was dirt on the track, right?
Dirt. Yeah. And I couldn't wait until Monday morning to call him. Well, when I called and told him, his first question was, who was there? And fortunately, I could say Joe Kosinski, Steve Kosinski, Steve Frazee, and then, of course, the local guys, all of them were there. And he said, oh.
Heavy hitters all the way around.
Yeah, and that was one race I'll always remember.
Who you got sitting at your table tonight?
Oh, man. My daughter, Jennifer, Clayton Hughes, my sister-in-law, Kathy Justice, my niece, Tina Cannon, my niece, Jennifer, and Stubby. Behind them, we got Stacy Mulick, Rita Mulick, Chase Galvin, Dean Galvin, Dean's girlfriend, Fred Brandt, Jackie Brandt, Amy Moppin, and Butch Moppin.
Stand up, everybody. Stand up. There you go. Boy, that's quite a crowd of people you got here tonight.
And now I'm glad to say that Tim Carrick's here and Charlene Carrick's here, being as that's how I got started racing, was Carrick's.
There we go. And there was a special relationship you had with Tom.
Yeah, it was. I always felt like Tom was like an older brother to me.
Congratulations to you.
Thank you.
John, you got anything to add?
Oh, he was the most fun to race with. We had a short time and all good.
That's what it's about, fun, right?
Yes.
Congratulations. Joe Cobb, ladies and gentlemen. He's a Hall of Famer. Congratulations.
That's your plaque box. One more time, boys.
Show Me State standout Tom McGarry's star would shine bright in sprint car racing as a driver, owner, and mechanic for over 30 years in the sport at tracks that included Savannah, I-70 Speedway Dirt Track, and US 36 Raceway. McGarry also competed at venues that included the Northwest Missouri State Fairgrounds in Bethany and LA Raceway from the 1980s into the new millennium. He also crossed state lines to great success at Lynn County Speedway in Pleasanton, Kansas. In 1981, McGarry finished fifth in points at Savannah Speedway, followed that up with a second place points finish in 1982, plus a points championship in 1983 with 13 feature wins. For 1987, Tom would win the wing sprint title at Savannah once again, this time with 8 feature wins. McGarry also captured Savannah Track Championships in 1990, 1991, and 1992, and a second place in points in 1993, while collecting several more feature victories and a stellar career run at this Northwest Missouri short track. Away from Savannah, McGarry would take the Most Improved Driver Award at the I-70 Speedway High Bank Dirt Track in 1984, while almost winning Rookie of the Year title at Knoxville in 1985. He wound up third in points at I-70 also that season. Later, Tom McGarry would travel each week over to the Jayhawk State to finish second place in sprint car points at Lynn County with 5 wins in 1988. From the 1990s and into the new millennium, McGarry would get out of the cockpit and put his full focus on his mechanical prowess as well as owning his own race car. McGarry would run with drivers that included Kevin Whitworth and Brian Grimes, winning championships at US 36 Raceway, Lake Ozark Speedway, and LA Raceway. And just last season, along with his co-owner's son, Matt, Cameron Key and Zach Dahm drove the MRP chassis McGarry Racing Products sprint car to great success, including Cameron Key's win in October at Jacksonville, Illinois. Now the McGarrys are getting ready for a big 2026 in the number 31, and showing the versatility and the longevity of this Show Me State racer, he is now a CARB Hall of Famer. Presenting the honors to Tom is 2015 CARB Hall of Fame inductee Dale McCarty. Ladies and gentlemen, let's make welcome to the stage our next Hall of Famer, Tom McGarry.
Congratulations, made it.
You want to hold it off? It's fine.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
This is pretty meaningful because you're still at it. You're still out there competing right now.
Yeah, my son Matt wanted to be a car owner, so I told him that's a hard job to do. I'll back you 100%. And he said, well, you're a co-owner. We build our own cars. We run where we can afford to go, we go race.
And let's talk a little bit about how you got started in racing. You moved from Northwest Missouri down to Alma, Missouri. When did you make that move and why?
I made that move in '93. I was working for a guy in St. Joe at I&M Fabrication who gave me my first job because he got tired of me hanging out in his shop. I went down there because I wanted to be self-employed, and I figured they'd give me enough time to go do what I wanted to do. I promised my wife I wouldn't drive no more until I could afford to go racing, and I didn't keep my promise. I started back at LA Raceway in 2006 with 305 car. I used it for experimental testing grounds. I started building my own cars, and it was a good place to go on Friday nights and see whether you built something that was good or a piece of junk. My son Matt started in 2010, and he was pretty young when he started. He was still in high school. And he went on to run 305 car for a year, and then he ran 360 car after that. Then he decided he wanted to go out on the road and work for Brian Brown. So he learned what it was like to go travel for a summer with the outlaw style team. He come back and said, Dad, I want to be a car owner. And I said, okay, we'll do it. We've had a lot of success. We've had a lot of good drivers. I've surrounded myself with good people.
Now, when you're at the racetrack, you were telling me you have different roles than what Matt has. What do you do at the racetrack, and what does Matt do?
Matt's usually in charge of the tires, communicating with the drivers, and kind of finding out what they want the car to feel like. I do the chassis setup because I build the cars and I know what to do on them. He tunes the shocks. He's a key role in the fine-tuned setup of the car. He leaves the engine department to me. We work together real good as far as we share our roles, and we do what we need to do when we're at the track. We communicate well with each other, and we've had 4 really good drivers in the last couple of years that have showed success. Cameron Key with being the latest one, Zach Dahm, Joe B. Miller, and Kyle Bellum. And
they're all great talents, by the way.
They're all good drivers. They're all successful in their own ways. You have to learn your driver to know what to do to the car. And I've taught Matt that communication is a big thing, and you have to know during the week, you have to do your maintenance, and you have to take care of your car and allow your racers to run in the shop, not only at the track.
Now, back when you were racing at Savannah Speedway and different places like Lynn County, just kind of talk about those days a little bit, back in the early days.
I started at Savannah. 1981 was my first full season that I raced. And there was a lot of older guys that raced there that had 10, 15, maybe 20 years of experience on me. I was a young kid coming in. My dad was well known at that track as sharing his racing parts that he had with about everybody who had a car up there. I was not well liked because I was a young kid. I came in there and I showed my talent, which I'm glad to have. It was kind of odd because some of those guys did not take a liking to a young kid coming in and racing with them. It was fun. I learned a lot from them, and I made a lot of good friends.
You got your son Matt, and your whole family's here tonight. It looks like.
I have my wife Joni, who we met at I-70, as a matter of fact.
How about that?
My son Matt, my daughter Megan, my former crew chief Gary Myers, my brother-in-law Chad Buford, who used to announce for WAR, and his wife Kristen.
Any final thoughts of what this means to go into the CARB Hall of Fame?
This is quite an accomplishment. It's an honor. I dreamed of doing this my whole life, of reaching this goal, and I think I finally made it.
You did make it, no doubt about it. Ladies and gentlemen, how about a big round of applause, Tom McGarry. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Hall of Famer, Tom McGarry. One of the most colorful racing personalities in KC racing history. Tubby Tony Maselli was a driver, owner, builder, and track official from the 1960s to the 1980s. His sons and daughters both competed successfully in local racing series as well. Tony Maselli started his racing career at Riverside Stadium in 1965, running in the stock car division. Those were hard years for the large driver, whose heart was just as big as his frame. Just about every year from 1965 until 1971, Maselli would have subpar seasons. Multiple cars were destroyed during this time, racing in the stock car and later hobby division at tracks that included Riverside and later Lakeside and I-70. Just about every year during that time, Tony said he was going to quit by season's end, but fortunately, he did not. Things started to get better when Tony finished 8th in points at I-70 in 1971. In 1972, Maselli once again had issues racing when he totaled his Chevy hobby stock. The proverbial fork in the road came, and Tony went the right way, joining up with Dale Brown and his 55 Lincoln. Teamed with Brown, the beautiful purple number 84 was one fast hot rod Lincoln, and led to a first ever win in stock cars on August 5th, 1972. It was a very popular win in the grandstands and in the pits. Tony was beside himself in glee, then rode that momentum to a second place finish the very next week. Now, the once luckless racer was challenging for wins all the time. Over the years that followed, Tony would become a stalwart in semi-stock division as well, winning multiple features at tracks that included the original Lakeside Speedway and Riverside Stadium. As an owner, he won the drivers that included Gary Truelove and Tom Charles. Tony would also work as a flagman at tracks that included Savannah and Central Missouri Speedway while using what Truelove referred to as large flags, adding his own personal touch. He also served at times as a pit steward. In a rags to riches racing career that spanned decades, it has now led him here tonight as the newest member of the CARB Hall of Fame for 2025. To present the award to Tubby is John Backlund from the inaugural CARB Hall of Fame class in 2004. Ladies and gentlemen, make welcome to the stage our final Hall of Fame inductee for this class, Tubby Tony Maselli.
Tony had an accident a couple days ago. Tony had an accident.
Tubby is a real trooper tonight. He had an accident here a while back, and we're grateful he's here tonight to accept his award. He's been through a pretty tough time here recovering from that accident, but he's here tonight. How about another hand for Tubby Tony Maselli?
You're welcome.
Can you look up here?
Hold the plaque so they can see it. There you go.
Before I go sit down,
Yes, John.
Before I go sit down, I want to say one thing about this gentleman. I learned a lot about racing by watching him race.
There you go. That's saying something. Hall of Famer John Backlund. That's a big statement. Thanks, John. Boy, that's quite an honor to have the inaugural Hall of Famer from 2004 say those things.
I'm surprised. I mean, I think
he learned a lot by watching you.
Yeah.
What do you take from that?
I don't have an answer for that. He likes me running into mud puddles all the time. That's all I did at Riverside, run into mud puddles, out the other side, run into a mud puddle.
First of all, how you doing? You hold up here. You had an accident here a while back.
This, it's really hard to say. Trust me. This started with Gary Truelove, an old and dear friend. He started this. And all I can say is, thank you, buddy. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. You want to sit down? Are you holding up okay?
I tried to kill myself last week. I fell off an 8-foot wall on the concrete, and I didn't think I was going to make it here tonight. But luckily, God said I was going to be here. So here I am, bruised up and broken, but I'm here. So, but Gary, he started this, I think last year, and he told me about this, and I says, I couldn't do that. I wasn't good enough. I just a local guy. But he was talking about flagging. I was at Savannah flagging, and I had this one car that kept jumping to start. He did 4 of them, I think about 4 of them. So I was to fix him. So, so when he went past me, when he come, I ran fast I could down to 4. And when he come off 4, I throw the green flag. It was chaos right then. They didn't know what was going on. But it was what I did. So, but I have my whole life had been racing. I started racing go-karts when I was about 12 years old. We raced, you know where Sam's Town is over there? Well, there used to be a boat dock called Sherrill Marina, and that they had a racetrack there, and I raced there. And my brother raced the go-kart over at Olympic, and we started racing. And then after I did that, and then after I got married, this neighbor come up the road with his race car. I did it. I built me another race car. Then I've been racing ever since, and then I got my son Tony racing, my son Sam racing, and my daughter was racing. And they actually did better than me. Wendy Jo finished 19th in points at Riverside. Sam, he finished 3rd in points at I-70. And Tony, he won championship and Rookie of the Year. So that made racing really special to me because my whole life has been racing. I have had a race car since I was my go-kart. I got 2 race cars at the house right now that are mine. And I can't do it no more. I'm too old. I don't think I had the energy to run 20 laps like I used to. But I'm glad to see all these young people out here that is racing and having fun doing it. But remember, it's not the way you're going to live your whole life. It's a building stone for you. Because when you learn how to drive a race car, when it snows and ice, that's how my kids learned how to drive. I take them up to Kmart parking lot when they had 4 inches of snow. We're out there running circles and running around. And that's how they learn how to drive. So have fun with racing. You know, that's all I could say. I had a lot of fun. And I wish I could do it again. Then I'd go home and build me a new race car.
Hey, I want to know about that hot rod Lincoln, that 55 Lincoln. Tell me about that race car.
Oh, that Lincoln, it was something else. I knew Dale Brown. He had 2 cars. Got to turn my ear down. That's one thing from getting racing. You'd go deaf. Dale had these 2 cars, and the Mock brothers were driving them, and then he had this Lincoln he was building, and I went over and helped him with it and got it going. And then he needed a driver, and he said, "You want to drive the car?" And I said, "Sure, I'll drive it." So I drove the car, and it was a nice car, really nice. The biggest joy I had driving that Lincoln, I stopped Sprague from making all them sweeps he was making with that Hudson. I broke his record real quick, so that made me feel good. But I tell you, I don't know how everybody is here, but racing was a big part of my life and still is. And I enjoy races. I don't like to go watch races. I don't like to watch them. I like to race. And racing is different than watching them. You have more feeling of the track. You have more feeling of the fans. You have more feeling of everything. Driving a race car is, to me, was the high life of light. It was great, and I loved to do it, and I still might do it. Be the only 80-year-old man out there driving. All the kids were saying, "Get the heck out of the way! Get the heck out of the way, old man!" And I just smile and wave at them.
Who's with you here to celebrate this tonight, Tony? Before we let you go,
I didn't hear you.
Who's here to celebrate with you tonight?
Oh, my son Sam, and my wife, and a friend of ours is Susan, and
my brother.
huh?
I said my brother Tony.
Yeah, Tony here.
There we go.
So I forget my name sometimes if I didn't have it tattooed on my shoulder.
Congratulations, Tony. Good job. Tubby Tony Maselli. Karen?
Okay, guys, that's it for tonight. But before you go, I want you to look underneath the table, make sure you don't leave anything, pick up your stuff, and have a safe trip home. Hold on. Okay, I need all my inductees, all my past inductees. I need you up here to take a picture. I'm ready to go home. So if